Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. I got a video today from Layman's Journal. Please like, comment, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Let's get that chow. It's chow time.
Here we go. Layman's Journal, Chapter 238. For as long as I can remember, I've been an advocate of family values and traditional gender roles.
Same.
And that's largely due to the way that I was raised. Not only was I raised with both parents in the home, but I was an oops baby, meaning my parents were way older than I was when I was born. You see, I'm a Zennial, and they're from the silent generation, and my siblings are all boomers. So it was a traditional home. My father was the breadwinner and chief authority figure in the house. He didn't believe that marriage was a partnership, and he led unilaterally, and it shaped the worldview that I have today. But growing up in a city like Detroit during the late 80s and 90s, I quickly learned that the values that I learned in the home were not popular outside of my home, because I was also exposed to a culture where single mother-led homes were the norm, as were female pastors, politicians, and teachers. So while my home was rooted in a patriarchal structure, my community was gunocratic. And while I had no issue making friends, I quickly learned that in order to maintain those friendships, I had to be careful around who and where I'd express my opinions.
True.
I can remember as early as 12, girls calling me misogynistic, and female teachers lecturing me about sexism because I didn't adhere to their feminist ideologies. As for the older men around me, they agreed with what I was saying, but they were quick to tell me things like, you can't say this or you can't say that around women. That's something you can only say among the fellas. So they mastered a form of gender-based code switching. In the barbershop, locker rooms, domino and card tables, they would act one way, but around women, they'd talk and act another. It's as if they were trained.
When he said gender-based code switching, man, that actually was spot on exactly what men do to not offend women.
To hide their masculinity or behave as male feminists. And it was weird to me because my father didn't hide anything, especially in front of women. But nonetheless, I did as the culture demanded. In private, I was a tradition.
So that's the thing, right? My father was the exact same way. I grew up seeing that, but culturally, my father was such an immigrant that he didn't understand culturally anything, right? Because all he cared about was making money, supporting the family, taking care of the business. Where I was immersed into that culture part where it's hard to do everything my father did, because then I would be super misogynistic and kind of a woman hating man in a sense of just how it's viewed. So being so young and being like told these things, it makes it seem like, oh, am I a woman hater? Am I misogynistic? I was like, what am I thinking? Because I couldn't like process everything correctly because I didn't have the correct knowledge or life experience.
Traditional male, but in public, I acknowledged and respected female authority. And that's how I got through school, that's how I behaved in church, how I got jobs, and how I got girlfriends. Yes, most of the women I dated were feminists and misandrists. But I wasn't happy. Living in submission to a woman is not the natural instinct of a man, but that's how every man around me seemed to live. And I felt isolated, because I felt as if I was the only man living this lie. But in 2007, I discovered Facebook, and it was therapeutic in a sense, because it gave me a place to express myself and find others of like mind. Well, sort of. Because even among the Christian conservative women, I noticed that a lot of them had misandrist and feministic point of views.
Yep.
And keep in mind, these are women who went to church every Sunday. They could recite scripture until they were blue in the face. And they were socially conservative. They opposed baby cancellations in single-parent homes. But they weren't all that different when it came to secular women on the issues of misandry and feminism.
Feminism does not exist because there is a vacuum. There is a vacuum because feminism exists. Listen to Wendy McElroy in her piece, Marriage and the Family, an Ideological Battleground. Although the gender feminist view of marriage borders on the absurd, for example, housework as surplus value, it is key to understanding the depth of hatred they aim at heterosexual sex and men. This, in turn, is key to understanding the emotions that fuel sexual correctness. To the sexually correct feminist, marriage oppresses women, and the family breeds patriarchy. There's that word again, patriarchy. Yep. Male headship. Happily married women are considered pathological and traitorous. Well, that's just in radical feminist circles, right? No. That's in the church, y'all. No, it's not in the church. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can do an experiment. Okay? Here's what I want you to do. If you don't have a teenage girl, borrow one. And then you have a luncheon. You have a luncheon with a bunch of church women, and you bring the teenage girl to the luncheon with the church women. And you get the teenage girl before she walks into the luncheon with the church ladies, and you say to her, listen, we're about to go into the room with a bunch of church ladies. You're going to be the only teenage girl in the room. They're going to ask you what you want to do and what you want to be. Here's what I want you to tell them. I want to be a wife and a mother. And you just keep telling them that. Don't say anything else. And you walk into the luncheon with the church ladies and watch them treat the young lady, be kind and warm and welcoming to her, and ask her what she's doing with her life, and ask her what she wants to be and where she wants to go. And you let her look him in the eye and say, I want to be a wife and a mother, and watch how they press her. Yeah, that's good, baby, but what else you want to do? What do you want to do for you? Yeah, that's good, but I mean, do you have any career goals and ambition?
This is so spot on, exactly how women talk to each other and talk to younger women. It's always, what else? Well, you can do so much. You have all of this power now. But I do have all the power. And some choose to use their power to raise a family.
And this, I just want to be a wife and a mother, and watch the fangs come out of the church ladies. Not talking about university professors.
I gotta say, shout outs to Layman's Journal. This is the first time I came across this channel, and I just had to click this video and share it with everybody else. Shout outs to you, brother. I think your channel and the way you're going about things right now is so sorely needed, especially in our community and the Manosphere and everything like that. So I will definitely be sharing your video a lot more often.
Talking about Sunday school teachers who are fire-breathing feminists who agree with the statement that McElroy makes.
And that's been my experience as well. Most women, regardless of political ideology or religious dogma, are generally the same. So even among Christian conservative women, I had to watch how I expressed myself, correct my behavior, like I saw the men around me growing up. And while I had more freedom to be who I was online, there were still limitations on what I could say. Then one day, back in July of 2020, a friend of mine sent me a link to some guy on YouTube named Kevin Samuels.
This is why I knew I loved this channel. This is exactly why I'm in here doing exactly what I'm doing, brother. It's thanks to this gentleman right here. I call him the Godfather. I know not everybody qualifies him as the Godfather. He is the Godfather to me because he was the one that got me. He was the one that reached me, that took me out of that blue pill beta cuck mentality into the man I am now, right? Not saying that I wasn't the man I am, but the thought process of how I thought relationships were, the dynamics between how I thought men and women were completely off from how it truly is. I literally had to take the red pill myself.
Back when he had 100,000 subscribers, months before the now infamous,
"You're average looking at best,"
and the rest is history. But being a fan of the late Kevin Samuels exposed me to a culture and a world where men had similar experiences. A world known as the Manosphere or Red Pill. But being in that world let me know I wasn't crazy and I wasn't alone. And I watched as the movement took off, and it became a part of the mainstream discussion on the gender divide. And that brings us to where we are now, 4.5 years later, with people eulogizing the movement, declaring it to be dead. But I think that's bullshit, and we're gonna talk about it. So, let's get it.
Do it. You know, it's funny. Like, people probably think I'm a little weird because I gravitate towards a lot of black creators and a lot of black, I guess, community things. And it's just, I grew up in it, right? And I don't know why I gravitate towards it. It's just what I see, and it speaks to me. It relates to me. I might not have lived the exact life or the community of, a black gentleman, but I lived in very close proximity, and I had a lot of good friends that went through a lot of these things. So I always, like, even again, my best friend now is like a lighter black gentleman that I've known for 25 plus years. I'm only 39 or 38. So I've known this guy more than half my life, right? And I just gravitate towards these things. I didn't really realize this gentleman was a black creator until I actually watched the video and I'm like, oh, it's a black creator.
First of all, I want to state the obvious. Movements don't die, they rebrand. For example, we just re-elected a new president in Donald Trump who won the popular vote. So today, everybody is MAGA. But before Trump came along, the Tea Party was the hot thing. And before there was a Tea Party, there were the Reagan Republicans and the evangelical right. And before there were the Reagan Republicans and evangelicals, there was the silent majority. But regardless of what it's called, the theme of the movement is always the same. It's God, patriotism, individual liberty, a strong national defense, supply-side economics, and America first. So the names change, but the ideas remain the same.
True.
And when you look at the Red Pill or Manosphere movement, at its core, it's about traditional values and gender roles. And that's why I, someone who grew up in a household with silent generation era parents, was so drawn to it. And that's why I laugh whenever I see people fighting over who came up with what first, who created this talking point or that talking point, because none of it is brand new.
No.
These ideas and concepts were around long before many of us were born.
And this is why I say some people, Tom Likas is the godfather. Some people, it's Rollo Tomasi. Some people, it's whoever kind of, some people, a lot of people is actually Patrice O'Neal. I can almost say it's somewhat him too. But the person that really gets to you, that is able to guide you when you actually fell on your face and your ears open up, that's where I can always attribute the late great Kevin Samuels. Because again, I fell on my face at that moment. My ears finally opened up, and then Kevin Samuels came in and said, boom. And I was like, oh, I agree.
But getting back to my point, the reason why these movements never die is because the issues that the people are fighting for within the movement have yet to be resolved.
True.
Take young men, for example. 63% of them are electively single, meaning they aren't interested in marriage or dating. Young men have fewer educational and career opportunities than women, and as a result, they earn less money, are more likely to live with their parents, and their self-deletion rates are at an all-time high.
True.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, as older men have their own set of problems. But my point is, as long as those problems exist, the movement will go on. And to argue otherwise, as if men are okay with the way things are, is radically stupid.
Yep.
They're not just going to shrug their shoulders, accept these problems, and continue suffering in silence. So if everything I said is true, why does it feel like the Red Pill or Manosphere is dead? Well, that's largely due to the influence of Kevin Samuels.
Stop. What do you mean by that?
Now, I know that sounds crazy, but hear me
I think I know where he's going with this, and I think I'm gonna fully agree with this.
out. The good thing about Kevin Samuels was that he was able to bring the concerns of men into the mainstream in a manner that was palatable to women, in a way that didn't foment hate towards them, because he advocated for a reconciliation between men and women and encouraged both to be better so they could build strong families and strong communities. And that's something that only a misandrist or feminist with radical ideas would oppose. So he was a great representation of what we were advocating for. The problem with Kevin Samuels is that he created a template for success. He showed people there was big money in what he was doing.
True.
And his rise led to an explosion of grifters, con artists, chameleons, trolls,
And this is exactly what I thought where he was leading to. Technically, I'm one of them. Right, I saw Kevin Samuels and I saw a lot of other people, but I didn't think any of them matched what The Godfather had. And I was, in my mind, I was like, I think I can do better than most of these people that are presenting this topic. Like, I want to be, like, in the comments section, it was It moved me, you know. They compared me to Kevin Samuels, as in the only person that they watch in the Manosphere and Red Pill anymore, outside of Kevin Samuels after he passed, was me. I was taken away. I was like, wow, you're putting me in the same boat as the Godfather? That I am I am in shock because I've never thought that I would be ever considered anywhere close to this gentleman that kind of brought me into this space. So
clout chasers, all of whom were trying to replicate his success, not because they believed in what he was saying or doing, simply because they...
okay, this one, at least I believed in what he was saying and doing. Again, I only had one really major disagreement with the Godfather, was his like 3 to 6 months, you kind of know and you should get married kind of thing. That was the only thing I had an issue with.
We're looking for a way to make an easy dollar. To them, it was something to exploit. And to make matters worse, these grifters, con artists, chameleons, trolls, and clout chasers didn't have any talent. So their success was unsustainable. And as a result, most of them are gone. Many have been demonetized, others have been deplatformed altogether. True. And the rest were just repeating what they heard. And eventually their shtick got stale, and people tuned them out. So it feels like the movement died because all of the loud, stupid people are gone. And that's a good thing, because the movement was never about the noise they were making. It was always about male advocacy. It was about articulating the problems that men were having in the real world and working towards some type of social political solution for real change. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of the Black Male Political Agenda, curated by Dr. Tia Johnson, because it's something tangible that we can strive for. But the movement was never about rounding up a bunch of OnlyFans models, sitting them down at a round table, plying them with alcohol, and paying them to sit there while the hosts badgered them with statistics and red pill talking points on topics they couldn't discuss if they were sober, let alone drunk, just to make them look stupid and the host intelligent, then kicking them out of the studio for being the belligerent.
He is really going in on Fresh and Fit right here. Fresh and Fit and whatever podcast right here.
Drunken trollops they were paid to be. Nor is it about selling courses on how to hook up with those types of women, or selling tickets to attend parties with them, or any of that other dumb shit the grifters, con artists, trolls, and clout chasers do. But unfortunately, that became the perception of what people thought the Manosphere was all about: dating and arguing with low-end women. So yes, thank God that sophomoric garbage is dead, that the gimmick is no more. But male advocacy is still alive, and we know this given the recent chatter surrounding the election.
I noticed that the gender gap that she was in the case of males actually went up the more that Emhoff and Walt started talking about the new empathetic male, the new masculinity, those white dudes for Harris, those crazy actors that were in those commercials. Nobody's ever seen a person act like that in the real world. That was a whole disaster on their part, this idea that they were going to create an image of a new masculine male who was feminine almost. And I think it really turned a lot of independent men off.
A Pew study found less than a fifth of Americans believe that the progress women have made in society came at the expense of men. But 40% of men supporting Trump between the ages of 18 and 49 do believe the progress of women came at their expense. And Trump has been trying to reach out to this demographic, doing podcasts and golfing with the Nelk Boys, joking around with Theo Von, appearing on YouTube with Jake and Logan Paul, as well as with streamers like Aiden Ross, reaching the millions of young men who follow these social media personalities. As the New York Times put it, these repeated collisions of testosterone-fueled orbits are a campaign strategy, not a coincidence. Look, that our young men today are struggling in comparison to young women, it's borne out in the data, raising the question of whether it's time for a targeted intervention. Consider that at the Democratic Party website, there's a list under the heading Who We Serve of 16 different demographic groups. They include African Americans, the faith community, LGBTQ plus community, rural Americans, and women, but not men.
Then there's these articles that talk about how Barron Trump introduced his father to content creators that appealed to young men, and how that led to Trump winning first-time voters, and other editorials about how Kamala Harris lost because she didn't have a plan for men. So the legacy media is paying attention. Politicians are paying attention. They
have to, right? And remember, men are checking out in droves, checking out of careers, checking out of a lot of things that kind of are needed So this is why they have to do something.
Desperately want to know what men want. And now that the grifters, con artists, chameleons, trolls, and clout chasers are out of the way, we can tell them. So the Manosphere or red pill community isn't dead, it's still alive and well. The terms may change because they're no longer useful, but as long as men continue to have their problems, the movement, regardless of how it's labeled, hasn't gone anywhere. So I'm going to close things right here, but before I go, please be sure to check out the other videos in my library, as I'm sure there's something there you'll enjoy. And if you like this video,
give this man some support. This video was a beautiful video that I haven't seen in a long time, this type of video, other than from another, maybe one other creator that are very similar to this. I enjoy this a lot. Shout outs to you. Give this man support. Go give him some subs. Go give him some likes. Go watch his other videos. You know, if anything, go through his library, and if you want me to cover a certain video of them, send it over. I'll cover a certain video, but I will go through his library and see what good videos I can pull out that really pertain to my channel and our channel here. So
please share the link on your social media platforms. I cannot stress enough how far that goes into helping me grow the channel. And that's it.
Layman's Journal, brother, you have a wonderful channel. I loved it. I think me sharing this on my channel might give you a little bit of more subs. I think a lot of men really radiate with what you're saying and just how you're going about things. Shout outs to you, brother. Please like, comment, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. And catch you next time.